Presidential nominee Governor Mitt Romney is also reacting to a video that surfaced from a private event held back in May. In the clip, Governor Romney is speaking at a private fundraiser, talking about the 47% of Americans who he says won't vote for him because they're on government or because they are dependent on government. He's standing by those comments, although he admits they were not elegantly stated and were off the cuff. Listen to a portion of that tape now.
There are 47% of the people who will vote for the president no matter what. All right, there are 47% who are with him, who are dependent upon government, who believe that they are victims, who believe that government has a responsibility to care for them, who believe that they're entitled to health care, to food, to housing, to you name it. But it's an entitlement, and government should give it to them. And they will vote for this president no matter what.
David Drucker is the associate politics editor for Roll Call. Mitt Romney's getting hammered in the media this morning for these comments that he made at this private fundraiser. Doubtless, those attacks will continue. How big a deal is it, David?
Well, it's not helpful at a time when he would like to focus on his message, on attacking the president, and on getting voters to focus on what the president is doing wrong in his view. It doesn't help to have the media focused on remarks that he made that he has to explain. Will it ultimately be politically determinative of how the election ends up? No. Are we going to end up focusing on something else in the next couple of days? Yes. And I would also say that this is the kind of statement that is probably going to upset the, as we've seen in the polls, the 47, 48%, 46%, 49% of voters who look as though they're going to support the president. It's not going to support the same percentage of voters who look as though they're going to support Mitt Romney. So I don't ultimately think this is that huge of a problem. The only issue is that getting this close to the election, you don't like to lose days where you can be on offense against your opponent. And to that extent, it's a problem.
Well, he did hold a news conference yesterday in which he essentially said, yeah, I was speaking my mind. I didn't say it so eloquently, but that's the way I feel. Here's his take on that.
We've watched the results of the president's approach over the last 3.5, 4 years, and his government-centric, larger and larger government approach has meant that we have 15 million more people on food stamps, 23 million people out of work or stopped looking for work or underemployed. We have had 43 straight months with unemployment above 8%. And my view is that the right approach for our nation is not to adopt a government-centered approach, but instead a free people, free enterprise, free market, consumer-driven approach.
And then this response from the Obama campaign. They say it's shocking that a candidate for president of the United States would go behind closed doors and declare to a group of wealthy donors that half the American people view themselves as victims entitled to handouts and are unwilling to take personal responsibility for their lives. It's hard to serve as president for all Americans when you've disdainfully written off half the nation. That from the campaign manager, Jim Messina. How is this different, if at all, David, from when President Obama, as a candidate, said at a private event that Americans were out there clinging to their guns and religion?
Well, I don't think it's really all that different at all, in that at the time that those remarks got a lot of attention, people wondered if it would change the trajectory of the campaign, as the kind of people that were supporting Obama at the time, they're going to hear this and oh my God, they won't like him. And as it turned out, it didn't bother them all that much. He still did very well with working class voters, working class whites, the kind of people in Pennsylvania and Ohio that supposedly he was going to offend. And I think given the state of the economy, given how people feel about the president, those opinions are pretty fixed. This isn't going to change anything, what Romney said. And I'd add that there's a large percentage of the country that agrees with him, whether they're middle class voters who lean to the right, are conservative, are culturally conservative, even some lower class voters who think that people rely on government far too much. And I don't think what he said, though inartful and unhelpful, is going to turn off the half of the country that already supports him. This still gets down to a contest for the few swing voters and undecideds that are out there. And finally, John, I'd say this. The president has also had a few gaffes, whether it was you didn't build this, or the private sector's doing fine, and the president is yet still doing fine. Yeah. So I don't know how much this changes things.
All right. David Drucker, interesting perspective. David, thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Well, now we head